All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can I get a good evening? Good evening, everyone. Yes, thank you for joining us. We're gonna jump right into it. So this public hearing is called to order on June 4th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. at the Community Board 14 District Office, which is 1810 East 16th Street, Brooklyn, New York. Sarah, we're recording, right? Are we? In case I have to rely,
So you have to repeat all that?
just in case.
Oh, man.
Sarah, we're live?
We're live.
They call everything I just said?
We did.
Smooth. All right. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony by community members with respect to the Uniform Land Use Review application to the Department of City Planning submitted by Prospect Park Land LLC. The application is for a zoning map amendment from R5/C2-3 to C4-5D and zoning text amendment to Appendix F to map a MIH mandatory inclusionary housing area to facilitate a new 9-story approximately 157,399 square foot, which is roughly 300 bed facility, long-term care facility at 1455 Coney Island Avenue, Edmondwood. This ULIP number is C220449VMK and N220450VRK. Members of the public must register to speak. Speakers are asked to state their name, whether they live in a district and organization if applicable. Those speakers are asked to provide their addresses for the record, but are not being asked to state addresses in this forum. Members of the public who are viewing this meeting on YouTube and would like to comment on the issue can email info@cb14brooklyn.com, and those comments will be collected for the record. Please include your name, address, and organization if applicable in the emails. We are joined by today the applicants by representatives from Eric Palatnik, PC. Eric Palatnik, Esquire, will begin the presentation. And I'll pass it over.
Just tell them what to do.
Thank you, that's very generous of you. Thank you very much for having me, everybody. My name is Eric Palatnik. I don't know all of you, I'm just in the room. I'm an attorney, don't hold that against me. I represent people that are seeking approvals from the city, and I work with the city of New York to help people build buildings, essentially, for the most part. What we're here for tonight is the replacement of what was once a skilled nursing facility and a rehab center that's since been demolished on Coney Island Avenue, and we're hoping to replace it with a community-oriented skilled nursing facility and a facility for people from the neighborhood to go for senior services and to live and to reside at, and something that'll be available to everybody in the neighborhood. The name of the facility is the Sepharda Community Health Center. Some of its principals who are volunteering on the board of directors are here today. One of which is named Shimmy Pellman. Shimmy, if you could raise your hand. He's got decades of experience. We were just talking. He was telling me he started in 1971. I was born in 1979, born in 1969. He also sits on a community board, or sat on a community board. I think it's community board 8 in Queens, and he's very involved in land use and planning in New York City. So he brings a unique lens to everything, and he's going to be the one operating this facility. So we'd be happy to answer any questions. We're very excited about it. It's here to serve a need. It's open to everybody. Everybody. So it's first come, first serve basis. This is something for the community. It's replacing something that serves the community. There are none of these facilities around. If any of you are getting older, that was a joke, and you're looking forward to your senior years, as your golden years, they call them, or your parents are right now, you're noticing what I'm noticing after my father just passed away last year, and we're looking for a place where my mother could be taken care of. There are not that many. The only way to get the pricing down on them, and the ones that are there are expensive. The way to get the pricing down on them is to build more of them. And these guys are doing the best they can to come in at reasonable rates. And also there'll be other opportunities for people. So they'll speak a little bit about that. If you can go to the next slide, please. What I'm going to talk about now, before we get into the program of the building, is what we're asking you to do. We hand it out to you, you can bring them home if you want to, or you can burn them or give them back, whatever you want to do. But you can read everything and see what's going on. The left side tells you what's there right now. It's a vacant lot. 28,000 square feet. It's on Coney Island Avenue. We've all driven past it a million times. It's between Avenue K and Avenue L. It's in the Ocean Parkway, Special Ocean Parkway South District, or is it just outside the, just outside the Ocean Parkway South District, on the other side of the street? It's got the crummiest zoning in all of New York City for an avenue, R5. And I know we have a form, you're blessed with Carol on your board, who's been more knowledgeable than most people in the city. And she could probably back, if she doesn't agree with me on anything, she could probably agree with me that Coney Island Avenue was really not the best, R5 is not the best zoning choice for Coney Island Avenue. And the reason why is R5 only allows for low-rise, 4-story, 5-story garden apartment kind of buildings. It doesn't allow for multiple dwelling. And that's why Coney Island Avenue has been held back all of these years. Is because the zoning on it doesn't allow for apartment buildings. That's actually the one place, in my opinion, that apartment buildings should be built. And back in the 40s and the 50s, before I was born in the 60s, they built apartment buildings there. And you could see them, they're the old red brick buildings that are all over the place. And then the zoning came in and changed, and it's been stagnant ever since. So what we're here for today is in the middle, to change the R5 C23, which is an R5 residential with a commercial overlay that lets you do commercial use, and replace that with what's called a C45D. That's an R7A equivalent. It's a 5.6 FAR, floor area ratio. I'm going to go through that with you a little bit more. You can see it on the right side. It lets you build exactly what we're proposing, which is on the right side. 9-story, 95-foot tall, long-term care facility. That's what it lets you build. Also lets you build an apartment building. It also lets you build an office building. We're not here for any of that. And that's why these guys are here. Because they're here to tell you that they've been at this for a very long time, to get the funding for this, get the licensing for it, to get the operator for it, and to get everything put in place so they can provide the service to the community. Trust me when I tell you, they are not here to do a bait and switch and a flip on anything, and they can give you all the assurances that you need. It's a not-for-profit, even more so. So and they're governed by the state in so many different ways, and they'll speak to that. So I just want to tell you that we're not here to ask you to change the zoning, as most of my clients are. It's just to earn income. They're here as a not-for-profit, they're here to service the community, and we're here hopefully to do something you think is reasonable. We can also show you on this slide that 300 beds will be created. They'll include 240 skilled nursing beds and 60 assisted living beds. These 60 beds are going to be Medicaid or private. The 240 skilled nursing home are going to be available through
Medicare and Medicaid and private.
Okay, and he'll talk more about, if you have questions about operations and pricing, when I get done, he'll try and give you the best he can. There were 28 parking spaces until we had a conversation with your councilman the other day. And he said that should be a little bit more. So we put valet parking in, and I think we got up to 40 parking spaces. It's probably in the presentation here today. I didn't change my notes. Next slide, please. This shows you what we are asking of you to approve. This is the core action that we're asking you to approve for us, which is to change the zoning to a C45D. Now, the C45D, as I mentioned before, is analogous to an R7D zoning district, R7A zoning district, excuse me. If you look what's above you there on the right, on Avenue K, what's mapped already, R7A. So what we're doing here is simply allowing what, in my opinion, as a planning perspective, should be on the avenue. And as a matter of fact, city planning just announced with Mayor Zoran a rezoning initiative on McDonald Avenue and Coney Island Avenue and another portion of it, where they're going to be studying doing a rezoning on the entire avenue. And if I was you, I'd be clapping for that, because below us here, you can see is what's called the CA2 district. And in my opinion, if you have a CA2 district in your neighborhood, it's not doing it any good at all. It was created by Robert Moses to be the automotive service center for the district. And that's why you see what you see there, because nobody can build anything there that's really of any value unless I want to open a car dealership or do something that's like that. It lets me do that very easily. Or I can build a very large community facility building there too. So if Sloan Kettering comes to me and says, hey, you got any property, I can go into the CA2 and build a gigantic, and you've probably seen this in the neighborhood already, a couple of very large office buildings. They're called community facilities, and they're allowed in the CA2. So what I'm trying to demonstrate to you is, even though I'm here asking you for something, I don't think I'm asking you for something that if you were looking at it from a planning perspective and understanding what the maps are showing. Notwithstanding what people may have objections about what we're asking for, I think it makes good logical sense. So that's the legal side of the zoning. The rest of the stuff I'm gonna cruise through because that's the essence of everything we're asking for. The rest of it is really just your opinion on the matter. So I'll go through the next slide. The next slide shows you what this allows under the existing zoning on the left side and what's proposed on the right side, which is basically everything I just said. So you have this, you can go back over if you want to read it, it's a cheat sheet, you can go to the next slide. So the next slide just starts to show you what's going on around us. I see there's a bunch of people here. I imagine some people might live in the community right behind us or near us. And so you can see there are homes behind us on East 12th Street, which are single family homes. And I respect the fact that we're asking for a zoning change. It's going to build a building in front or behind their homes. But I'd also respectfully say that I've represented a client, one client in particular on McDonald Avenue once, who lived behind the site we were building a building on. I said, do you like that we're building a building there? You're building the building. And he said, of course I love it. It's so noisy on that street, it blocks all the noise. So that was his way of looking at it. Other people won't like any invasion on their privacy, and I can respect that. But that's really the only downside of what we're doing here. Other than that, what we're creating is a great opportunity for senior opportunities in a long-term care facility. And we're also creating something we think that is more compatible with what's going on around us. You can go to the next slide, please. This is what we're proposing and what it's going to look like. We haven't shown you any of the designs yet. We're starting to get into that now a little bit. It's really been designed well. The idea of the building is to create something that's nice looking, that breaks up the street, the context, that has a bit of interest to it, that also lets a lot of light in. All of the glass you see is letting light into common spaces within the building. So that way the people that are living there are having the opportunity to enjoy the best of living experience as they can. Everything else on that page is exactly as I just said, except they did fix the parking. It's at 38 spaces at the bottom. That's after conversation with council. Next slide. You can see the next slide gives you what you just saw and just overlays over it. This is just taking what you just saw a second ago, just overlaying over it, what's going on everywhere. So that way you can see it very clearly. It's giving all the same information you've had already. Really, there's nothing that 38 parking spaces, you can be knowing this by heart by now. 5.6 FAR, 300 beds. But what it's also showing you is the rooftop space where there'll be a recreational space and some solar panels, and the building sets back a little bit on one side. You can go to the next slide, please. Okay, obviously, I just spoke a little bit about tall buildings going up in the C8 district, and right down the block from us is a 148-foot tall building in the C8 district. That's exactly what I was referring to. You all know it very well. That's what's allowed to be built in the C8. If I was you guys, I'd be running to city planning and saying you should rezone the whole block to R7A and cap everybody, because I think these things are the worst of what you could possibly build there as far as overwhelming the neighborhood, so to speak. Not that it's so bad, but they should be smaller, in my opinion. Having said that, what we're doing is similar in a sense, and we're using that as the justification for what we're doing. Because what we're doing is going to be, I think, much more beneficial and of similar height. You can see in the next slide that we are nowhere near any mass transit. You know that. You guys are not well served by mass transit, so I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to go into that. The next slide is really irrelevant. Where are you at? Tax map? Next slide. Yep. You know, this tax map it just shows you the sites and the zoning, which you've learned already. Next slide. This is irrelevant, I was going to say, to this application. This is something we usually put in applications for housing, so we'll skip past that. Let me go to the next slide. So this starts to tell you more. I'm skipping things so I'm here. You're doing great. I'm not. Okay. Obviously, this is just all about everybody aging. This is everybody needs this. We're trying to demonstrate to you where the need is. We're trying to explain to you that since 2019, if you see the second bullet, this shocked me. 5,600 nursing beds are gone due to closure and decertification. We've all been watching what's going on with the hospitals. Some 57 that were hospitals when I was younger. A lot of them everywhere. There are not that many hospitals. They've consolidated. Now you go to urgent care if something's wrong with you. It's really all you have available to you. The same thing has happened in the long-term care facility area. So if any of you have anybody that's in this world and you're shopping now and trying to get somebody in, you know exactly what I'm talking about, that there are not that many. As a matter of fact, if you want anything around here, the closest you're gonna get is Jersey or Long Island. You're not gonna get anything in the 5 borough, very hard to get anything in the 5 borough, very, very. So that's what we're here for, and that's why these guys are volunteering their time, and that's why they created a not-for-profit, and that's why they're going through all of this. Next slide. This starts to get into, they've got a lot of expertise, and they're really trying to create something that's special. They're not trying to create something just to plug a gap. They're trying to do something that you guys can all be proud of, that if any of your family members need it, or God forbid you need it, or not God forbid, but maybe one day you will need it, you have something you could look forward to. Basically, this is all just a lot of pictures and stuff, but the right-hand side starts to show you all the amenities that they're going to include in it. And this is irrelevant to us in a room as a land use, but if you're a person who's going to live in here, 7,500 square feet of rooftop recreational space, all the glass windows, the street trees, the planters, everything I was talking about, a coffee shop, outdoor terraces, rooftop dining, rooftop area dining rooms on every floor, with communal worship space. The dining room on every floor, you might scoff at too, but it makes a big difference. When you're living in these buildings, your floor is your world. You don't go to the other floors. You're not moving around, you're not 18 years old. You're hanging out where you're hanging out. So if there's a dining room right on your floor, you're making friends with all the people that are living on your floor and you're building a community. And that's what this whole design is all about, is building a community. The plans, I'm going to skim through. They just go right through everything we just spoke about, but I'll show you what it looks like so you can see it. The building right here is glass. If you go to the next slide, go to the next slide, stop at C001. There you go. What you're looking at right here is the plot plan. So this is as if you're looking at the building from above, right? So you're in a helicopter right now above, or a drone, looking down on the building. And what you're seeing on the right side is all the jazz I told you about, the rooftop solar space and the recreational stuff like on the rooftop. When you're looking at the left side, it steps down 1 floor, remember? And the back, what you're looking at is 34 feet. That's over the 2nd floor. That's separating the building from the neighbors behind us. And that's going to be landscaped. And along the perimeter of that rooftop, it's going to be landscaped with 6-foot high, tall evergreen trees that can be planted at the time of planting. So that the idea is that that rooftop is not going to be visible to the people in the back. Nobody's going to be standing on the rooftop looking down into their backyard while they're having their barbecues or anything like that. It's going to be totally separate. And it's only going to be 1 story tall with the rooftop above that. So if right now, just to give you an example, if I went to go build a community facility there, you can go 30 feet right up to the back lot line, right? And then she can tell you more than I could tell you. So what this is doing is giving, and they actually could have the right to even potentially create that, but they're not seeking to create that yet. They want to provide the maximum amount of distance that they can to the people behind us, which is also good for us because it gives them as much light and air and separation and privacy as we can get, which we want also. The next slide shows you a section of the building, which basically just describes everything I just spoke about. There'll be a cellar and a sub-cellar in the building, and the building will rise to 9 stories tall. It'll stand at a total height of 95 feet with a 10-foot tall protrusion on the roof. So it'll be really 105 feet. Go to the next slide, please. Next slide starts to show you what the cellars and the sub-cellars and the program and the building are all about. The sub-cellar is exactly as you would think it would be. Basically just all the maintenance, storage, kitchen, back of house stuff, everything that is common in a facility such as this. If you go to the next page, please. This page is the cellar plan. Now, this is where people start to use it. The right side of the page gives you all recreation space. You've got a rehabilitation facility there. Not recreation, but rehabilitation. You've got different therapy rooms in there. You've got steam saunas. You got a halo therapy salt room. I don't know what halo therapy is, but sounds good. Just everything you would imagine. The left side is a ramp down coming at the top into that cellar level where there'll be parking. And that parking is now going to be valet, as I just mentioned to you a moment ago. And I'll save this for, I think they say 2026, but I think I saw 38 up there. I don't know if it changes parking. Next page, please. The next page, now you're on the first floor. So a couple of things that are good for you to see here. The first thing is there'll be a prayer space, and the prayer space is non-denominational. It's available to everybody for all different religions, faiths, and origins. It will not be marked with anything in particular, and everybody can come in and use it as they see fit when they have a moment that they need to use it. The other part of the proposal that's important to see is on the right side is the parking garage entrance, which is going to be enclosed, right? So you're not going to be, you can drive in under a portico. And once you get inside, the valet is going to take people's cars if you're driving there. You're also going to have a shuttle service for people in the community to get your friends and relatives there to encourage you to come, because nobody visits people in these places. Trust me when I tell you, they come once, they say hi, done. So it's not as if it's generating that much traffic. But in order to encourage people to come, because part of the problem is getting other seniors to come visit their friends. All want to come visit, but they don't have transportation to come. So the idea of this is to give an opportunity for people to have transportation in the community to come and visit. So if they can't drive, which all the people that are living here are people that are going to be 60, 70, 57, 70, 80, whatever age they're going to be. That's only their friends. Not all of them drive. I'm getting old.
Average age is 85.
Average age is 85. There you go. So I got some time before I'm moving, hopefully. All right, so the right side, you can see as soon as you pull in on the left side of the right side, on the left side, that gray area, you can see 2 loading berths. That's gonna be for all the trucks that come in for the laundry, that's gonna come in for the daily stuff for the food, that's gonna come in. You're not gonna be able to get an 18-wheeler in there, so we're not trying to kid you. And there are going to be once in a while, a Cisco truck is gonna pull up, like we've all seen them, with whatever that delivers. We control when the deliveries come, we control what kind of time of day they come, so we can organize that. There won't be a tractor trailer there more than once every week and a half. It's only, we have freezers and refrigerators on site, same as your home. So this is not going to be a tractor trailer all the time. Most of the trucks coming are the laundry trucks. Laundry, bottle. So the laundry is going to be done, all that comes in through there. You also get a lot of people that, are we going to have dialysis on site? Are we having dialysis on site? No. So we're gonna have a lot of people, of course, who need dialysis. They'll have an opportunity to park there as well. What we're trying to do is design into the building all the things we've heard for years from everybody, which is cars in the street, trucks in the street, people are loading in the street. If we didn't have this, or create something like this, we'd have everything in front of the building and be asking for no parking and no standing zone, which will probably still ask you for a no standing zone for a portion of the front of the building. But that'll really just be for a convenience when the accessorites pull up, because the accessorites are not going to pull into the parking lot. I've been living in New York for my entire life. You'll never see an accessorite, I think, use the driveway. They'll usually just stop right in front. So that's basically the essence of our design. And that's where, if you look at the back, the beige, the gray area in the back, that's where the first floor is that I was talking about before, that's going up to the second floor. And that's the only portion that I mentioned. So I mentioned for the neighbors behind us, we tried hard not to design it in a way that was as minimalistic to them as possibly be. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But that's above the rooftop there, the green areas, everything I was speaking about. And then everything that's in orange and the blue in the middle is the dining room area I was speaking about. And that's all the glass. Remember I said at the beginning, the glass to let the light in as much as possible. So this is really going to be a spectacular setup if you happen to be there at age 85. It's facing westerly, obviously on a night like tonight, it's a gorgeous night. These people are going to have the opportunity to sit in the dining room and experience the outdoors to the best that they can while they're sort of confined to this space. And that's the idea of it, is to give them an experience that's not making them feel like they're institutionalized, it's to make them feel like they're outside, that they get some opportunity to actually live, in a nice environment. And it's not necessarily by virtue of the fact that the wallpaper is nice or anything. It's more just by creating an environment that's nice for people. The rooms, I'll let Shimmy talk about the room size and all that. And the plans just typically repeat themselves the whole way up until you get up to the very top floor, which is the recreation space I mentioned before, which I can see on page. I guess I can't see that. I can see it. There it is, on page A1100, which is what you saw earlier. I showed you in that earlier slide, and that's the rooftop. And again, it's been designed in a way you can see that is landscaping around the periphery of it in the rear. There's also a railing at the rear. And then that's set 34 feet away from the neighbors. So you're really gonna have to have a very agile 85-year-old that's gonna get able to look into any of these properties around it. It won't be happening. And if anybody feels that there's a privacy concern of any sort, they're happy to commit to whatever you want, fencing, landscaping, anything. So that privacy is ensured for anybody around us. We're not trying to intrude upon anybody as much as we can. That concludes my presentation. That's basically everything. Jimmy, I don't know if you want to say a few words, just that
Don't mind.
I didn't say or that I might have said wrong incorrectly.
Hi, my name is Simon Feldman, but my friends call me Jimmy Feldman. I've been active in healthcare and a nursing home administrator since 1971. I've been a member of Community Board 8 in Queens for over 40 years. So I'm very involved in all of these things. And I would like you to, if you have a chance, write down my website of one of my nursing homes, a 5-star nursing home, Meadowbrook Care Center, where we have done so much of the work that you see that's going on here. The difference is, this is a nonprofit. I'm not making any money on this, and the community is benefiting from the fact that we're gonna take all of our income and put it back in the facility, put it back in the community. We're also gonna hire a lot of people who live in the community. 75% of the workers who work for me live within a 5-mile radius, and that's out in Long Island. In this area, it'll be within a 1-mile radius, and if people would like to start applications in a year or two when we start building, I'll be happy to sit down with the community and offer them jobs and everything else they need. One of the things we do in nursing homes is not only long-term care, but short-term care. What we try to do is rehab as many people as possible and send them home. No one is sentenced to a nursing home. No one has to be in a nursing home. You're only in a nursing home if you need to be in the nursing home. If the family can't take care of you or you can't be alone at home. As a result, we are necessary. We're part of the healthcare continuum. We're part of what is real going on. In this neighborhood, within a 5-mile radius, there's very little. And unless we are allowed to build it, it's going to continue to be that way. This will be the first project that the health department will allow in many years. And as the nursing homes are aging, they will have to be placed. Something will have to happen. This is going to be the newest structure. It's going to be an amazing community facility. And I hope all of you will have a chance to visit it and be part of it. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions if anybody has it.
There's nobody pre-registered.
Meadowbrook Care Center is the name of my 5-star facility. It's the one I'm running. It's in Long Island, meadowbrookcarecenter.com.
Are you done with presentation?
Yes.
We didn't have
You
it.
already have a certificate of need?
Excuse me?
Certificate of need is done?
No, we're working on it. One of the things to get the certificate of need is the zoning.
Got it.
Otherwise, the health department will say, well, we're gonna give you permission to build it. What are you building it?
Okay.
This used to be a nursing home many, many years ago. And now it's just an empty lot. We're gonna make sure that it's a community facility. Did you want to ask me?
The chair, actually, the chair will recognize all speakers.
Yes.
Board members, this is the opportunity to ask questions.
Sorry, we got it done, but thank you for the presentation. I have like slightly different kinds of questions, so maybe I'll ask, they're all very brief, but of different natures. One is just, when you talk about the light, I'm not great at reading the plans. I see there's this like central tower of glass. Is the front wall glass and the back?
No,
glass?
just the front.
Just the front, okay. That was the first one. The other one is just, and I'm sorry if I missed this, I came in a few minutes late. Is there a percentage of the total? It's gonna be about 300 beds. Is there a percentage of beds that will be for Medicaid patients?
The answer is yes and no, because normally the way it works is you have a 2-to-1 relationship. But, so in my facility right now, we have 80 Medicare and 200 Medicaid.
Okay.
and there are 5 or 10 privates, so they go on the bigs too. But normally, we reflect the community. In other words, the bed itself is a bed. The person in the bed is the decision of what that person needs, whether they need short-term rehab or long-term care. That's the way it works.
The genesis of that question is just, given the socioeconomic nature of that, it would be nice to know that people in the neighborhood can afford to go to the facility. And then my last thing is just, Kings County has about 630 beds, right? Kings County is like a huge facility. And this has about 300. So I just think like for all of us, and when you think of the scale of how beds and thing, my question is really just about ambulances. And, unfortunately, I do think everybody needs an ambulance sometime in their life, but for a nursing home, I know you mentioned how like trucks would move in and out, but if ambulances need to come in or arrive or medical stuff, like where would they enter the building? How?
Same exact location if they were scheduled.
Okay.
They could use the same, if it's a scheduled ambulance trip, but if it's an emergency, it'll pull right up around like everybody else.
Okay. Just for tenants around, like the noise generated.
It's not really, I don't think an ambulance is not, there's not, I mean, how many sirens are there? There's sirens.
Well, we won't have sirens, but if it's a medical emergency coming back, obviously, but you know what? If your loved one needs to get out of there in a rush, you better hope that the lights and sirens work.
That's all, thank you.
I have a question. You mentioned at the beginning that you increased the parking spaces to 40. Is this 40 parking
It was
spaces?
40, yeah, if you can go back, I don't know what slide. it was.
38.
38.
So, would this be a public parking lot? Is this parking lot for
No.
visitors and
Only
workers?
to use of people all the
Okay,
time.
thank you.
I'm not entirely familiar with how the licenses, regulations, et cetera, pertain to a long-term care facility. And I know that you are planning to open it as not-for-profit. Is there any guarantee it will always remain not-for-profit?
Yeah, there's a very strong guarantee, so it should be money.
Yes, the way it works is the health department regulates nursing homes. By the way, just for your information, the second most regulated industry in the United States after nuclear is nursing homes, honestly. I happen to have a master's in it, plus many other things. Once you apply, you can't change it. And once you have it, in order to stop it, it's very hard, let's put it this way. I have seen very few nursing homes change ownership from nonprofit to proprietary. Because the health department doesn't let, Department of Justice doesn't let. In other words, if I were to build a synagogue or a church or a Muslim, whatever, mosque, and I want to change it to something else, I got to get permission from the Attorney General. It's the same thing with nursing homes, but it's much more because I need the health department and the Attorney General to say yes. Very hard.
Thank you.
Hi, Board Member Bowles.
Is labor included in your facility you have now, and will labor be included in this facility?
So if I may, almost every nursing home in New York City is $11.99. It's number one, so we will be unionized. Number two, the rate is not set by me. It's set by the federal government and the state. Included in those rates, that rate is my cost of doing business. So if $11.99 gets X, which they will, that is included in my certificate of need as part of the cost factor. The state will then determine based on my expenses, what I'm allowed to have.
You did have it. All right. Listen.
Sure. So I was just wondering, I was looking at later pages in here that didn't get covered, but I was wondering how the projections of the shadow cast factored into your plans when you were thinking about the height, because I see some areas, including a playground, that would actually be affected pretty.
Yeah, we
significantly.
did our best to minimize as much as we could with the design. That's why the top floor chamfers down a little bit. But there are going to be shadows, and that's why we showed that to you. We could throw them up on the screen if everybody wants to see it, or if you could tell everybody what page you're on, that way they can take a look too. But we did do our best to try to minimize it. I believe the playground is only for a small portion of the day that's falling into a shadow situation. And that happens. It's gonna happen. There's no way around it. It's just a fact of building a building.
But that is why we pulled the building back by 35 feet, exactly to minimize that. Because we don't want to be bad neighbors. We want to be a great neighbor. We want to be a community facility and an asset to Brooklyn. And the only way we can do that by being a good neighbor.
Do you mind pulling up the slide to show the shadow and just
Yeah,
how long?
good,
I know
yeah.
it's in there.
Right, so of course, the sun is coming in from the south, the building is positioned east-west. So the shadows are not as substantial as they would be if the building was running in a different trajectory. But you do get some shadows throughout the day, but not that much.
That's part of it, covered by shadow.
Oh, can we keep going? Because I think there's one of the slides, yeah, the time.
Yeah, they all say this, the time.
Okay. Thank you. What did we do? Do you still have a question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you have a parking facility, which is great, and the entrance looks spacious there. And you mentioned earlier that the accessorides, they typically would not go inside, so they'll be just pulling up to the front.
I'm just saying New York folklore.
Yes.
I'm not saying,
And you're
we
like,
will
right.
direct them to move up front,
You're like,
to move into
right.
the site. But I've never seen it like that. I've never seen a UPS truck ever pull into a building in my life. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that the UPS truck is gonna pull inside.
How many parking spaces are you looking to take to allow for those people
None.
to pull up?
No, there's a,
So
there's
they've all double
dedicated,
parked?
they're dedicated, no, they're dedicated spaces. Oh, the space in front?
Street
The
parking.
Street parking, we're gonna
Yeah.
create a no standing zone in front. I'd imagine it's gonna be probably about 60 feet or 70 feet long in front. There'll be an emergency, there'll be a no standing loading zone only. And that's going to be for the accessorides that come in and things like that. So that's, I mentioned that during the presentation, and we're going to, so they'll probably take away 18 feet of cars, so probably 3 or 4 car lanes will probably be removed as a result.
24 hours or first times today? 7 to
Probably
7,
24 hours,
not 7 to 7?
probably 24 hours.
We want it available in case of emergency at midnight.
Or
Cost.
And the other thing too is there's no schedule. Listen, I'm not trying to play up the infirm side, but there's no schedule to what's going on here. This is not operating on our schedule. It's operating on their schedules, and their schedules don't go by. It's not.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you finished, yes.
One other question. So we started with 28 parking spots. And then you took it up to 38, and you said we now have valet parking. When you have 28 slots, was that also valet parking?
There's
Sorry?
self-park.
And so what was the reason for the change in valet?
We had a conversation with the council member to introduce the project to him. Last we've met before, for full disclosure, we've met with people within your board. Before, we've had a Zoom call, we've introduced the matter, and we did the same with the council member introducing the matter. And the council member's comment was that he'd like to see more parking.
They requested valet parking.
Requested more parking. We provided it in the full valet because that's how we really get more parking. He just requested more parking.
And the other thing we're going to be providing shuttle service to the subway stations. And there'll be locations in the neighborhood where we will pick up family members, visitors to come to our facility. We want to minimize as much traffic as possible.
I thought you said they'll even tell you exactly where to pick them up, right?
Right. There will be spots and they will be posted in the facility, letting the community know where they can grab one of our trucks.
And for the rooms, how many residents gonna be in each room?
Well, if you looked at it, there's no more than 2,
Okay,
and a lot of them are private groups. So what we're trying to do is encourage community but we're also trying to encourage as much privacy as that person needs. You know, and
I hope I get the single.
No,
I told the single.
I've always visited, those facilities, and to me, it don't provide like too much privacy.
What, this is the double?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in the room, I'm joking, because I've been in the room with my aunt, when she had a double, you know, and it was, it's always awkward, it was always awkward, you know, we'd all walk in, the whole family pile in, you know, and then Gertrude was in the bed next to us. You know, I mean, it's a very awkward situation. But there's no other, unfortunately, I just want to come, there's no other way to do it.
Well,
It's-
but what we try to do is put areas on the unit where you can meet with the family outside of your unit.
Still, the room still doesn't feel like.
So it's saying,
I just want
could you clarify?
the architect that designed the facility took exactly what you just said.
Can we go back to a floor plan?
And the rooms, the double rooms are built in such a way that you actually feel like you're in a private room.
Oh.
You have to look at, if you look at a room and see where.
Yeah, wait, no, go to, we have
You
it.
have the
That's
illusion of being in a private room, and you have a lot more privacy than your typical other single homes today that you see.
Slower trigger, forward.
Big focus.
A302.
Go to the rooms.
Yeah, keep going. A302. There you go. There you go. Okay. So you can see what they tried to do is create like a little alcove area on the side there. So it sort of bumps out. So listen, we're not telling you that it's gonna be the most private situation in the world. It's still a double. We've all, I don't know if everybody is, I've had a roommate, but I've had a roommate. There's no real way around now noticing the other person in the room with you. You can put up a thicker curtain if you want, but they're still there. But we tried our best to make it as separate as possible, and that includes the bathroom, you know, too, where we tried to place that, everything about the room.
Pardon, your name?
You want to go first? No, you already had a question.
That's my question.
Oh, thank you. So I've always looked for the doom and gloom, so,
You're a
you're,
lawyer also?
no. But I'd like to think like one. Anyway, so it could be actually for the C450, it could be any of the use groups 1 to 10,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
So if the building were at some point sold, let's say.
Yep.
It could be converted to any of those of the use groups.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, it's just what I hate is the thought, you know, again, you used the term bait and switch earlier, you know, this is something that does happen.
Not to anyone that I am around.
No, I understand that.
Never happened.
But we on the board, of course, have experience of a whole range of properties and may have seen things that seem unseemly to people.
Remember, I've been on the board for 40 years, so I've seen all.
You know, exactly, so you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Is-
No, yeah, it makes sense. But that's why everybody's here, and we have the paperwork to show you the filings with the state, that everything is laid out, and it's all going to be memorialized in agreements. And you're going to see that situated. Nobody is doing this and there's no other way to pick another location. There are no other locations. Not for profit, it's already been established,
Just a spot.
but this is the location. It's the block, it's half the block. It includes the building to the left of us.
So it does.
Yes, and it'll include them and allow them to be legalized. They're now overbuilt on their building to the left of us.
By how much?
So, we're not exactly sure. On the corner,
Your apartment house?
yeah. It's in R5 district, so you can.
So that gets
That's-
rezoned, so they can now go up to 9 stories.
It's not that they're gonna go for 9 stories.
I'm simply saying.
It gives them the ability to be a legalized establishment, a legalized building. And when they go for refinancing, oftentimes a problem somebody will have when their building is overbuilt is they will go to buy an apartment and the bank will question zoning on the property and things such as
No,
that.
I understand.
By bringing this into line, it brings it into compliance, and this Department of City Planning will tell us over and over and over again, it is more in line with the planning perspective to bring the zoning into line to reflect what's built now, and the existing zoning does not reflect.
Understood, but you also stand by, which
I
is that
understand.
we've got a.
But we're not doing it.
Got a 108-foot building down the block, and now we've got this, and then another one potentially 9 stories that could be built on the other lot that is being rezoned. You know, of course, now
No,
we're,
that other building is not gonna be rebuilt, it's substantially improved upon, if people live there, and it's an existing building, that's
you
not.
understand my point. that
I understand your point.
Right.
That's why they're all here, though. That's exactly why everybody came. is to give you the comfort to know that each of these people live within 2 miles a year, or two of them do, and they are committed to the site. It's been a nursing home before. Ownership of that nursing home is not running this nursing home, but it's got a legacy, and that legacy is intended to be completed here. And that's
Certainly not trying to impugn their code. But
And it fulfills the need of the neighborhood.
no argument about it. I think that the plan sounds wonderful and it does serve a purpose. But as you know, being on the community board, we also have to look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
So with rezoning of Coney Island Avenue, foremost on our minds, whenever you see an aggregation of upzoning, you start to think, the next person would come with a lot halfway in between your development and one that's.
The city of New York is coming with the entire,
I'm well aware of that. That's further
entire
north,
avenue.
further north. I'm well aware.
The entire avenue, and they're coming with that because it's appropriate, and.
That's our next discussion.
We're asking you to trust the people that are here today to create some, to put away the skepticism for this one. Although it is, many a time I will be here with a client who may not be as beyond reproach as this group is. And your question may be, and I represent a lot of people, all shapes and
You
sizes.
don't have to.
Having said that,
That's okay.
this group right here, that's why they're here, to give you that comfort, so you don't have to worry that it's gonna be anything like this.
Nursing home that I built, Medical Care Center, we opened in 96, and it's still running as a nursing home 30 years later.
Kudos to you.
So
I'm gonna be quiet now.
No,
You raised a good point, you're right.
Board member Cesar and then board member Julia, and then I'm gonna close out the questions after the last two.
What is it, Chairperson?
Yeah, you.
You.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So I have a few questions. So thank you so much for the presentation. So the first one is, could you remind me again, what is the proposed name for the facility?
They come up with the name.
Spottic Home Health, to the Spottic Long-Term Care Facility.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question I have too, so I'm looking at A110, which you said was the roof, right? And it's the open rooftop recreation. And so if I'm reading this correctly, it doesn't have a cover over it.
It does, and it's going to have solar on it, some solar panels.
So the question I have.
Over the portion that's on the left-hand
So
side.
the question I have is on the right side, if it's raining, I'm assuming the people wouldn't be on the rooftop, right? So where
Yeah.
would they be to get that exercise then on days of rain?
There were spaces within the cellar spaces, a rehabilitation area and a hard.
Got it, okay. And then the other question that I had as well too,
The recreation moves on the floor.
On every floor, but also
there's recreation zone room on every floor. So in the event of, so not even in the event of when there's inclement weather,
If it's
there's.
snowing, we're not putting people on the roof.
That's excellent,
Yeah.
but the reason I asked.
As this winter, that won't be on the, they won't be on the roof until today.
We got it right.
So I thank you for that clarity though, just because looking at that, I couldn't tell. So I was just curious,
Yeah.
yes, there's
It
that
is
much space
confusing. You're not the
allotted
first
for
person.
them.
It's confused a lot of people, including us.
Excellent. So thank you very much for clarifying that. And then the other question I have too is regarding like trash disposal. Just because, as you know, with DSNY and the commercial waste zones and there's that. So when I was looking at the cellar, actually, could you go to the slide with I think it may be the cellar or the subcellar? I was trying to figure out, okay, so where would the actual like trash collection and haul be? Right? Like, they wouldn't,
I don't
they
think
wouldn't go into the garage, but then.
No, it would be in the garage somewhere.
Oh, would be,
They probably end up keeping it somewhere at it'd be at the subcellar level where it's stored.
Mhm.
I'd imagine they're going to be putting in a refrigerator in the subcellar.
Okay.
For garbage storage, and then it's gonna be transferred from that point up probably to the first floor garage area
Mhm.
where the trucks are gonna be able to come to the street right there and be able to roll it out to the street.
Gotcha,
And
thank
it
you.
would be a compactor, so that the garbage is solidified
Mhm.
and taken out once a day, once every other day, depending on how much usage we do right now. In the nursing home I'm running, we have them pick it up twice a week. We got plenty of room.
Excellent. And then the last question I have too is about languages and readings, right? And so as you're aware, you got Farsi, Haitian Creole, Spanish, Chinese, and millions of languages, right? And so I'm just wondering, I'm looking at the first floor, I see the ALP lobby. So what I'm wondering is, okay, I walk in, how soon is it before someone who speaks my language or finds out?
So you walk in, your security person will ask you to sign in
Okay.
and ask you who you're visiting, and then direct you to the right source.
Okay, and so that would be the job of that security person then? It's like, oh, if I don't speak the language that you speak, then, okay.
Well, let me add a little more color to this too, just so you understand.
Mhm.
It's gonna be a bit of a learning curve. Once we understand who's fulfilling the population within the building, then we'll have a very good understanding for who's gonna be living there, what languages they're gonna be speaking. So if nobody Chinese moves into the building, then we don't have to, but all the different languages you mentioned a moment ago, I imagine if there's a strong population of people, of course, they're gonna make an effort to make sure that the person there, or there's somebody around. So multicultural, multicultural, yeah.
We want to be user friendly. I run a facility in downtown Flushing, which is half Korean and half Chinese. And we have so many interpreters because you need to be able to
Was that
communicate.
Union Plaza?
Possible. And if you look at the website of my nursing homes, you will be very impressed because you walk into my nursing home, there's no odor, there's no smell. That is something I refuse to allow in any building.
One more thing, just so you, if you want to verify things, your district manager can call over to Community Planning Board 7 in Queens.
It's in my nursing.
They meet in his nursing home. That's where when I attend community board meetings for Board 7 in Queens, they're held in his. So if you want to get an understanding for how they're operated, his involvement, and that actually, that goes to the same thing here. If there's a need for space by this board or any public entity, to the extent that they could open their facility up, he's been known to do that. So that's not just a sales gimmick here. And we encourage you to speak with.
Sold.
Sold, I like that. Shut up.
We're not gonna let you in, sorry.
All right, next,
Thank you. That was my
we have,
question. Thank you. Yes.
Kirsty, and then we're going to take it.
All right, thank you, thank you.
I didn't
Um,
have something to work out.
Hey, great presentation, a really clear picture of the facility you propose. But I do want to restate, and the community board is aware that what we are going to vote on is an application to rezone to the higher district, right? And we're not approving or disapproving the nursing facility, which sounds fantastic. And, we're hearing the commitment of the applicant and the property owner. And so we're approving a rezoning and we're approving the mapping of MIH, which is mandatory inclusionary housing. Because in an abstract future, if this lot were developed with a residential facility, 25% of that residential facility would have to be affordable units, 25% or more. So just to kind of re-anchor ourselves in the actions that we're actually voting on, that will facilitate this facility, which sounds like it's going to go forward, but that's like a whole separate thing. So that's my comments just on the actions before us. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
Craig, close us out.
And yeah, I echo, this is obviously a much needed use in the community. I just have a couple of really questions. So we've seen the renderings from the front. Do we have a rendering from the back, just to understand what that's actually
Don't
going
think
to
we
look like?
do, but I can get you that.
Okay. I think that would help to sort of visualize it a little better, because it does sound like there's a little confusion in terms of how those views will actually.
Yeah, we didn't give you one for the rear. We'll get that.
Also, just sort of at the beginning of your process, obviously we're here in terms of considering the actions that Kirsty noted, but during that initial phase, did you consider an as of right proposal here? And what would that look like? Because I say that because you had mentioned that there was a facility there before that had 212 beds. Presumably it was, if not compliant, certainly more compliant than what's being proposed.
It was a cesspool. It was horrible. It was a 70-year-old bowling alley that I believe was a bowling alley that was converted to a nursing home. That was demolished, rightfully so. So,
Yeah, no, that sounds terrible. So,
when it terminated, when it ended, the building itself, not that it was a cesspool, I exaggerate. It was not, the building itself was not worthy of being saved. It was an old building that was converted not up to modern standards and would not be considered something that somebody would want to occupy.
oh, I'm not suggesting
So,
we could
yeah,
have kept that building. What I'm suggesting though is, what does an as of right new building? What does that?
That's the
produce?
problem. As of right, new building only, let's get to a 2.0 floor area ratio. We're here today asking you for 5.56. It's a lot more floor area. The R5 district also only lets you go up to a height of 45 feet. R5 is meant, R5s are mapped, you know where they're mapped? In Glendale, Queens, and Oakdale Gardens, and on the side streets up and down Brooklyn, where you see all the low scale.
Understand, it just.
So that's R5. So if you're, it doesn't enable, especially not for profit developer, but really most developers, especially in the skilled nursing facility, we don't want to forget.
So how many
to
beds
build.
are we talking about?
You're at about a third of the size of this. So what do we have here? How many beds? 300 beds? So you're at 100 beds.
And it would be,
You won't get a license for 100 beds.
No, they won't, the state won't approve it.
okay, so that was investigated and that was.
Yeah, no, there's really no, and I'm not trying to be flippant about it, but R5 is, I mean, I keep looking to your former ex, city planning, employee, to the sense that R5 is well recognized within our world as being crummy zoning, for the extent of building larger developments. It doesn't allow, it protects smaller neighborhoods, and it's good to keep a low scale, but on an avenue, it's not, in my opinion, it's not appropriate for now.
And I understand. I think what I'm just trying to get my head around here is because, well, like we've said, our next topic of discussion tonight is a new neighborhood plan for this very area. And so the question for us is this something that sort of fits within that vision? Is that something that appears to be appropriate with that, coming discussion and that coming process that we're going to have to discuss?
If I could influence you in any way, shape, or form, I'm the son of a Jewish salesman who's been traveling the streets of Brooklyn in this block since I'm a little kid. I think that you would find a gem of a future if you enabled young people to move here and prosper and grow their families. And I think that the zoning you have in place now prevents that. And that puts me out of business of a lot of rezoning.
And I think we're getting a little left.
Just so you know, that cuts me out of the equation.
Yeah.
But I think your avenue has been denied the same growth that I've witnessed all around the country right now, around the world. And my favorite thing to do is on a website called Forgotten New York, where they put up a picture of Coney Island Avenue in 1912, and it's exactly the same today to the brick. And to me, you guys are a gem. You have one of the best neighborhoods.
Yeah, no, and we have a great opportunity to discuss that.
Yeah, so I'm excited
but
to do
when-
that.
So what I'm trying to get at again is, okay, so how did we arrive at this proposal? And is there something that maybe, an alternative that achieves everyone's goals, but perhaps isn't quite as intrusive in terms of, the existing streetscape, notwithstanding whatever the plans are for Coney Island, Avenue in the future? Just kind of curious what that
So
process
I'll
was.
give you, there were two components to it. The first component was an economic component and the ability to get licensing from the state of New York to have the facility. And there's a minimum requirement, and the floor area that we've come up with, the bed count we've come up with, is the minimum requirement that's needed in order to make it work economically and to present that plan to the Department of the State and have them believe us that we can actually pull this off from a not-for-profit perspective, both in New York State Attorney General and with the Department of Health. That's the first angle where we came from. When we sat down with city planning, they looked at the very map that you're looking at, that you're about to study. And they said, there's R7A right next door. Can you just drag that around and do exactly what's next door? Because that makes sense, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And that was, if I'm still, I don't know, still allowed to say that, I don't know, ganders protecting, species these days.
All right.
The idea of it is that it's the same as what's going on around us. And it's not, that hasn't necessarily, I haven't heard too many people upset by that, what's going on there. I think this is a great opportunity for you again. I really do. So from a planning perspective, it makes sense. And from an economic perspective, it was necessary. And from a public good perspective, it's phenomenal. I think it's phenomenal.
Okay, and there have been no discussions with the neighboring property owners. I know you'd mentioned that they're not going anywhere, but, something legitimate to think about, future, for future projections in terms of those other properties that are included.
There's only
in
one
this
other
area.
property, it's the property to the left of us. Maybe we can show it on a picture or something. That last thing, there you go.
Okay,
The small ones to the right too, I apologize.
right. And no discussions with those folks in terms of its reason?
Have you been in touch with anybody next year? No.
Not started on much.
No.
All right, fair enough. All right, and then I'll just,
And by the way, I'll call out one more thing since you're asking about it. The council member has the right to use an eraser on this project and eliminate any portion of the zoning district because of the zoning map change. any portion of that they don't want to see. They are fully within their rights. I cannot do that, but the council member can, and your resident expert can inform you of that. So if you were really concerned about your.
Well, it's been so much diminished by the new,
The referendum.
yeah, the referendum.
It's only been diminished by the referendum if I bring an action to appeal it. And I have no interest in the surrounding properties. We are here to build our building. So if you wanted to lobby the council member to suggest that the zoning map change should be altered to eliminate those surrounding properties, because you don't want to see them benefit from this, he has full power to do so, and there's nothing unjust, unfair, or wrong about that. That's fully within his discretion to alter this map however he sees fit. He also has the power to veto the entire application, which, of course, then I would probably go to the appeals board and talk to the appeals board. But having said that, I don't think that's the discussion that he and I have even come close to discussing. That's not where that conversation is going.
Understood.
But I'm letting you know that you do have the authority to make a condition in your recommendation and to speak to the council member about acting on his authority.
Understood. And just one final question on parking. We talked a little bit about that. How do employees fit into any of that? Are there designated spaces for employees? Are employees going to
The
be?
employees will have the chance to use the parking. Most of the employees are not driving to the facility. Most of the long-term care facility employees are using mass transit. First of all, for a couple of different reasons. Most, as we mentioned a moment ago, will live within a very close proximity to the facility. That's number one. Number two, there'll be a shuttle bus, as we mentioned, that's going to be making stops. That'll be available to employees as well. So, and number three, most of the employees don't have cars. Most of them don't. Some do, but a lot of people don't rely upon a vehicle to get to and from points within the city. They are the people that are relying heavily upon mass transit.
So they may or may not be accommodated in the parking.
They will be, if they need a spot as an employee, if they need a spot, there'll be a spot on site for them.
And what's the maximum shift number of employees per shift anticipated?
Well, remember, there are 3 shifts, so. the
Each shift,
employees
yeah, per shift.
Rotate on the shift. So on a 300-bed facility, you normally have 1.2. So you'll have someplace between 350 and 400 total employees over a 7-day period. But
At
remember,
any one time.
the most you'll have over one time is about 100 employees.
Wait, how does that work? It's 300 beds, 1.2 employees. Sorry, I'm not
The way
getting
it
that.
works is, remember, you're talking about 7 days, not 5 days. So the employees work 5 days, so you still have an overlap of 2 days that you have to take care of the patients. So you hire more and they work rotating shifts. And over weekends, 1199 has its rules on how you do it. And therefore, you don't have one-on-one, so you have 1.2 on one. That's how it works.
It's beyond my math, but it sounds like it sounds like.
Well, it's also not in the application.
Thank you to the project team for your presentation.
Thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Now we're gonna, well, is there a motion from the board to make a recommendation on it? Oh, yeah, I think we actually did that. But are there any non-board members who would like to? Is there a motion from the board to make a recommendation on the ULIP application for 1455 Coney Island Avenue?
So. Sorry.
Is there a motion from the board to make a recommendation on the ULIP application at 1455 Coney Island Avenue?
And then there was a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
So there was a motion to approve the ULIP recommendation at 1455 Coney Island Avenue that was properly seconded. For board members to let you know, the recommendation that we will reach after we vote will be reported to the full board for ratification at the next monthly CB14 meeting. So we're gonna proceed.
Is this for the committee only?
It's a recommendation coming out of the public hearing that would be ratified at the next board meeting.
Yeah, so this is the public hearing. The committee meeting didn't start yet.
Would you like us to be at any meetings? Oh, there shouldn't be anything. Would you like us to stay tonight?
You don't have to. You can stay for the vote.
I like it. I like it, yeah.
Yes, we are moving forward with the vote. So are there any questions or discussion about the motion that was presented that I repeated? Are there any questions? So we will proceed to a vote. Are there any members ineligible? Are there any abstentions? By a show of hands, are there any members against the vote to approve? By a show of hands, are there any members for the motion?
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes. It is now 7:35 PM and the public hearing is closed.
You like us to take it at the conference, we're happy to come back to you.
All right.
Yeah. Big, I'll let you,
Yeah, I was a big difference.
So we're moving on to a housing land use committee meeting. If anybody would like to move up these chairs, would be a good time to do it, because I think we're gonna get started soon.
One for dinner.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, just want to get her.
Yeah, well. I'm not so. No, it was just mine. I'm, very democratic power trip.
I didn't know what time. Alright, so,
Wait, well, yeah, you can start, but we're gonna pull up the,
oh, yeah, let's do that.
Good, I seen it, so we'll see.
We're not.
Press conference.
Yes.
Shape and the height.
All right, bring yes, order. Meeting. Thank you. Good evening. Now we're going to move on to our committee meeting, the Housing and Land Use Committee. I am Greg Alvarez, co-chair, and from the committee is my co-chair. We're here this evening and we have one matter on the agenda. It relates to an upcoming neighborhood plan. It's called the South of Prospect Neighborhood Plan, which our board will be a part of, be part of that process. And I think to give us just initial thoughts and overview and direction, I'm going to turn it over to our chair, Joe Gray.
Yes, so on May 20th, 2026, the city of New York has, there's been a lot of chatter about it too, so a lot of people have been familiar what came out, but the city of New York released a press release that announced that it would advance two neighborhood plans, one that actually already started. So one in North Bronx, which is on White Plains Road, and then one affecting directly our neighborhood, south of Prospect Park. The South of Prospect Park plan would focus on Colonial Island Avenue and McDonald Avenue, and the goal, and I'm quoting from the mayor, to conduct a study to build more homes, create permanently affordable housing, support small businesses, and invest in public spaces and infrastructure that community deserve. And we're going to do it leading with New Yorkers leading the process every step of the way. So the Department of City Planning has a website, and this is the area that that they're planning to study. On this website, there's also a survey to gather initial community priorities from residents in the impacted neighborhoods. But however, from our conversations with Department of City Planning, we learned that the formal engagement is not expected to begin until the fall. So while I personally believe the city should have waited to announce this plan and until they were fully prepared to engage with the community, I also see this as an opportunity for Community Board 14 to take a proactive approach. This is our chance to engage our diverse neighborhoods that live close to Coney Island and McDonald Avenue to create a space for residents to share their priorities and ensure that when the formal process begins, our voices are heard, organized, and informed and centered around the conversation. And so there's been a lot of discussions. We had our executive committee meeting last week and we already spoke about how our committees and our board can engage in preparation for the neighborhood plan. And this meeting, we're hoping that through this meeting, starting at this meeting and going forward, we'll provide board members in the community an opportunity to learn about what neighborhood planning actually is, for them to envision what specifically for us Coney Island Avenue will look like. And I think Greg actually started to point at that when we were speaking about the zoning changes that can come and what would be possible once changes start to come on the avenue. And also to temper concerns about the future process and letting people know that there will be engagement. And we're hoping that we are starting our engagement process early before the city does, so we're prepared. And the last thing that I'll mention is that we're in great hands with our leadership, right? I've been here for about to be 3 months, and it's been great working with all the committee co-chairs and all of our board members. So I think that we're in good hands, right? You've seen that Greg, he was the last person to scold the project team before he had out. And then I think he voted against the project. So I think that we're in very good hands. We're gonna have people that are fighting for us, but I just want to let everyone know that Community Board 14 will be proactive in the coming months before the city even starts. So we're prepared. And I'll kick it over to our housing and land use co-chairs.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just sort of kick it off to talk about what to expect with the process, and I'm going to lean on you, Christy, as well, because obviously you've been through this more than we have. So I'll just give like the framework, and then please, Kirsty, fill in the gaps here. So this is all on their DCP website as well, neighborhood planning. So it gives you a bit of an overview of what to expect. But basically it's a lot of fact finding. There are going to be a lot of meetings. There are going to be a lot of opportunities for all of us and everyone in the community to get together and talk about it. And, it can get very granular, so people are going to be encouraged to bring their ideas, very specific things, and asks as well, because this is our opportunity to ask for things. So that's really, just in a big picture to think about. But in terms of process, the way it goes, so you have this initial period where they gather information, and it's all going to feed through DCP. And what the first document that's going to be produced is the neighborhood planning framework, which is going to sort of in broad strokes give an idea of what the plan is meant to accomplish after pulling in all of the information on the initial level. That actually goes through environmental review. So the environmental review will start at that initial stage. And as that's going on, what comes along at that point is a more formalized document, which is called the draft neighborhood plan. And the draft neighborhood plan sort of crystallizes everything together that's being pulled together with all these different strains. And so DCP is going to be sort of the primary gatherer and creator of this, but I think they create a separate steering committee, which will sort of guide this as well, which, obviously will be a part. So you can have a draft neighborhood plan, which is sort of that second stage. And that's at the point where it goes through ULURP, the Uniform Land Use Review Procedure, which we were exhibiting tonight as well, where it's going to go through all the different agencies, including our board, where we'll actually be able to evaluate that plan and speak to it, comment on it, recommend on it, which at the end of the process then is what we'll have is the neighborhood plan. And so In that neighborhood plan, again, it's baking in a lot of things. It is gonna bake in zoning changes. It's gonna bake in, capital projects that we're looking to try to achieve. Try to address some of the district needs that we've been trying to address for years and years and years. And so that's really what this process is all about. But I'm gonna turn it over to Kirsty as well, just to kind of give us, your thoughts and flavor and, what else to expect, and sort of the intricacies of all this.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Kirsty Udala. I used to work at city planning for 29 years as a city planner, deputy director of the Staten Island Borough Office. And so I'm familiar with neighborhood planning and reviewing zoning applications as we did today in our committee. So, thank you, Greg. You hit all the main points. It's a planning process. We're aware of it early. That's great. It's an opportunity to align. The positive is it's an opportunity to align things and ask for things. And what we have an opportunity to do, as you said, is to get a little ahead of things. We may not right now be able to jot down a coherent vision for our neighborhood, but we can certainly pull together our thoughts and get a start. And so, yeah, it's unusual that they announced kind of early, and it kind of makes you feel like you're at the starting line and you're kind of prancing your feet and there's nothing to do, but there's plenty to do. My last thought is that look at the White Plains Road one online, because they're a few steps ahead of us. And so, we're saying all these words about, oh, there's a plan and there's a information gathering and there's a draft plan. Well, they're a couple of steps ahead of us. So if you can look at that site and maybe we can send the link around. What do you mean? Like, we're gonna have visioning sessions? What does that mean? How do they collect the comments that come in? How do they organize them? How do we give feedback on something that's rough? Like, you might say something and they write it down and then go, well, that's not really what I meant. So I just want to bring some life to this process for you, and see it as an opportunity. The other cool thing, we've worked on many things where we try and coordinate with elected officials, our city council member, and borough president, and kind of, where can we all say, hey, we all want this. Let's team up and all advocate for certain aspects of things that we want in our community.
So what are the type of things that we can ask for? I know we've been in some initial discussions with other groups. What are the sorts of things you think are, things we should think about, that we should, be like, these are things that should be on our wish list.
Yeah, I'm just gonna,
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
on the wish list, yeah.
District.
Well, but so you revisit your district needs, someone just said, right?
Yep.
Carl? And I think it's really smart, and this, I'm just throwing this out as kind of a new idea, which is, like I said, what is the borough president said he wants that we want to? Can we team up and amplify certain things? But most of all, we should start with what have we been saying as a community board, formally through our district's statement of needs and other ways. You walk down Coney Island Avenue, one of my colleagues said, I'm taking my kid to school, I have to cross Coney Island Avenue. There's the auto shops, have used up the whole curb lane, their cars moving in and out. That's a CH zone, and this is the first time I heard someone say that it was Robert Moses that was a fan of mapping CAs. It's auto-oriented and he's totally into it, as the future. And now it's the past, to some degree. On the other hand, we also should take into account thriving businesses. We don't want to just decide, I've decided you should go. Yes, it's a process of balancing goals and objectives. I'll stop there.
And wanted to jump in, just to stress, and I'm going to stress this at our board meeting on Monday, that we don't have to start from zero. Right, we have a district needs statement that shows the things that we've been advocating for some time. In addition to our website and some of the city databases, right, where are we struggling and hurting and what we don't have, right? I think it's been repeated almost every time and it's in my brain, right? We're bottom 2 in green space in New York City. And And the reason why I'm also stressing this to every committee, right? Not just housing and land use, because we can advocate, I hear the 70 precinct come up, right? We could advocate for better lighting. We can advocate for parks. We could advocate for a variety of things. Of course, housing is going to be a key component. Small businesses, commercial space, what that could look like going forward. So it's very, very important that from our committee level that, well, from as a board member, we read our district needs statement to see what we have been advocating for and where we've been struggling and things that we can advocate for. And then two, look at other plans, right? The Gowanus, Sunnyside, there's a bunch of other neighborhoods that
Jamaica was the most recent
Yes.
completed one.
that have completed neighborhood plans. And then three, right, from our vantage points as committee members, right? How can I advocate for something in the neighborhood plan on the behalf of my committee?
So we want to talk a little bit about, sort of moving ahead from here, and Melissa has some thoughts about maybe how we can go about it.
I also do want to just differentiate, just point out, there is a difference between a neighborhood plan and a rezoning.
Yes.
And so Gowanus, for example, that was a rezoning
Yeah.
and an upzoning, and I was working with a nonprofit that was very involved in that for many years before that actually, got upzoned. And it's a lot of community conversations and hearing both sides. People who are extremely adamant that this needs to be upzoned. Housing should be allowed here because this was, of course, going from a neighborhood that was solely manufacturing. There was no residential whatsoever, but straight manufacturing. But we need more housing, we need more housing, we need to upzone this. And then people who are just as adamant about, this is a Superfund site, nobody should live here. And how to balance that out. And how to actually actively hear everybody's voice in that room. And that was actually the first time that ULURP got used. And that was by choice. That was voluntarily for Fifth Avenue Committee, was where I was working at the time. But one of the things I did want to point out here is it's interesting what they shared already and kind of the way that they've thrown things in here in terms of sharing the neighborhood history. And I think that it is important as we go about thinking about our neighborhood plan and responding to the neighborhood plan. A lot of what's been shared already. Definitely our district needs. You want to think about those, how to word those, how to put those out there. But also some other things that we might be able to utilize too. Things like, great, so housing. What housing? We want affordable housing. What kind of affordable housing? Just the 120, 140% AMI that they count as affordable and
Not that, no.
okay, good.
That's on camera. I said no.
Excellent. I'm also saying no. Yeah. Well, and that was one of the things that we worked on for Gowanus was very much getting, it's like, no.
Moskowitz. I've noticed you mentioned Jamaica Avenue. The Jamaica one. I was there the day we had that big old flood. It was knee up to your knees with the water in. So we need to look at the catch basins and all that we're gonna have there, so we don't repeat, because we already flood, right, on a regular day. So we need to make sure that the infrastructure is better.
Yes, having that be essentially a requirement in whatever they're gonna say, great, like here's the planning and say like, look, like here's something that we think is a requirement in any neighborhood plans as they move forward, because this has been an ongoing issue. We've been coming to you for years.
Yeah.
You can read the notes, read the archives. It's there. And we've been telling you this issue in this neighborhood and in these areas. And I would even throw out, it's like the idea of like community benefits agreements and things like that as well.
Right, just for some clarity, because you said this is not a rezoning, it's a neighborhood plan, but there is some rezoning involved in it. Coney Island Avenue, DCP said Coney Island Avenue is all they're planning on rezoning. Side streets will be involved only insofar as they feed into the plan, like they will find a side street that can host a park and green infrastructure to mitigate flooding and stuff like that. So just to be clear that there's some rezoning involved, but it's not the side streets, Coney Island Avenue and then apparently McDonald Avenue, but I don't know anything about that. And then, and when you said Superfund study too, and that made me realize that, you know, if we are going to build on places that had been, gas stations, there'll probably be brownfield. We won't rise to the level of the Superfund site, I don't think, but there'll be brownfield cleanups on some of these locations as well. So maybe that's another thing to prepare ourselves with, this understanding what that process looks like up and down, going down and down.
So I think for purposes of our committee, you know, we're looking to everybody for thoughts in terms of how we can be, you know, most useful in this process and, you know, most impactful. So we've come up with a few ideas so far in terms of how to do that. I know Sean sort of suggested a way that we can be sort of a, you know, somewhat of a clearinghouse to collect presenters and other folks who have been through the neighborhood plan experience, and maybe others who can, you know, help weigh in on it as well. We'd like to bring in those folks as well. So any thoughts far and wide for that, we certainly welcome that. And then the other piece would certainly be, you know, what are our thoughts in terms of where the neighborhood plan should go? And so we want this committee, I think, to be part of that, you know, to have a voice for that as well. So, you know, I think at this point, you know, maybe open up the floor a little bit just to sort of think about moving forward. You know, Kirsty, how long usually on average does the neighborhood plan process go? Is it a year, 18 months, 2 years?
Year, 18 months, if you want to include where it gels into, typically it's a series of commitments. Well, it's usually a zoning map change proposal, like of the study area. And like we were saying, capital improvements and specific themes, whether it's, you know, improving subway stations, getting more green space, improving public safety. They're usually kind of fall in line with the committees that we had and with the community district statement of needs. So we can use those to organize it.
Great, okay. And then, Susie, you raising your hand?
I was wondering, I know on the website for the plan, it said that the community is being invited to fill out a survey.
Yes.
Is that correct? Is that the only outreach, and how can, if it is, how can we extend the outreach and get feedback from the community? Because, you know, a survey is great. It may be easy as well in terms of the technology, but how do we broaden the reach of people, you know, who can have a voice in this, you know, and that's, I think that some people are left out a lot, perhaps because they are not aware, perhaps because they're in a certain demographic. So I think it's important to outreach, find mechanisms to outreach to everybody.
Yeah, well, the visioning process itself will be quite expansive. You know, DCP will schedule many events. You know, again, we can be part of that as well, and we can schedule our own events, you know, that are sort of based around the plan. And so that's, you know, so it will be quite expansive, and, you know, I think all of us, you know, and everyone is really encouraged to try to get the word out and expand as far as we can, for sure.
Yeah, to chime in, I think the survey is basically like a placeholder until city planning is ready to engage in the fall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's gonna be a more robust process, and I have a question, but I'll let.
So the survey, is it the survey that's available now?
Yep.
Same thing, same question that's always asked, languages, is it just in English or is it
No,
available?
on the city website.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic, yeah. Okay, awesome. And then the other question I had too is just in the interim, like while it may be a couple months before DCP does the more robust rollout, either it's a flyers or a blurb or something like that. Like sometimes, you know, when we have the board meetings and we have the posters and stuff like that, like sometimes I put them in like the areas in the apartment building where it looks like people have flyers and stuff like that. And so if there's already some sort of flyer or as we get the communication out, that's another way I think, where it's like, hey, the buildings that I'm in, you know, put something in the elevator or put it in a hallway or vestibule or something like that. So I'm just spitballing stuff out there, but that's just one contribution that I have. This is as we figure out like in parallel to, I guess, DCP's more robust engagement, how we get as many people involved, because I'm thinking, I'm sharing your thoughts in the sense, like, not only the people who live directly off of Coney Island and also McDonald, but just the fact that just because those are major arteries, there are people many streets down, go to those streets as well. So maybe they have some thoughts as well too about the experiences, so that's it.
Board members are going to be well represented in a number of street fairs such as this.
That's another thing too, I think about too, telling people, hey, you know, this is happening.
Yes.
I'm just curious to know how this process takes place with regard to developers. So I guess they're lining up now, they hear what's going on and they want to grab hold and build.
For sure, yeah.
So we're talking about a number of things, like we want to build a community, a well-rounded community, not just housing. But, you know, we talked about businesses, we'll need schools,
Community
we
center.
want parks, community centers, et cetera.
Yep.
So there's developers that are coming in, looking at developers, who's looking at the developers to come in and claim certain properties to develop?
Well, that's the challenge, right? You don't want that disconnect. I was talking to Sean about this. It's like, in a way, you almost want developers part of the process now, because you want to have an idea of what their perspectives are, because they'll provide perspectives of, well, this just isn't feasible if, and we really, to make this something that we can be a part of, we're really looking for X, Y, and Z. So, I mean, I think while it's, maybe a little off-putting that, they'd be part of the process, I think that's the only way to really have, sort of that vision for the future, to have those voices as well.
So is that a communication with DCP and developers or with the community?
I think all of the above.
I think the district needs statement isn't the only sort of resource. We're not starting from scratch because we have a robust district needs statement. But we also have the lunch and learn from a couple of years ago where there's some really relevant presentations on that. So I'll try to pull out the ones that really match what we're talking about. We have our planning fellow from last year here, Annie Larkin, who did, a city of yes, sort of this expansive look at what the community can do now. And that's still a resource that we can pull in. And we had Canva Ventures, a nonprofit housing developer who's headquartered here. And so when we talk about what kind of housing we want to see and what kind of uses we want to see, we can also talk about who we want to see bringing them to fruition. Whether there's a community land trust portion that gets eyeballed, or all nonprofit developers up and down, up and down Coney Island Avenue. I don't know if that's ever been done before. But, I think those are other organizations, developers to bring into the conversation.
I think this is going to attract a lot of attention. This is one of the first major rezonings that have taken place since City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, since the referendum that sort of neutered, just cut back local council members' effect on the rezonings in their districts, and third, with the changes to the state environmental regulations. So we are going to be sort of a test bed. Developers, everybody, other politicians are going to be watching to see what happens in this first large scale, certainly under this administration, which has also got everybody sort of, shrugging their shoulders saying, what's going to happen? So I try to think more strategically. I think that the CB has an amazing position here in that we can be an umbrella under which various neighborhood groups can meet and discuss in an open forum that's, moderated by government rules. I personally would like to see CB12 somehow communicate with us and with them, because you don't want city or some party being able to divide and conquer between the two, but saying, oh, well, if you're not going to let us do it on your side of CIA, we'll do it on their side. And they cut deals. A little background, I did this. I was part of the rezoning of the Lower East Side 20 years ago, 100 blocks, the East Village and Lower East Side. And it took 5 years. And the number of parties that we had under CB3 Manhattan was insane. But it finally got done. So I think Kirsty, I think you're optimistic in the 2 years, depending upon what the neighborhood response would be and how well we can all work together to ensure that everybody's satisfied with the outcome.
Two thoughts. One,
I kept thinking about that lunch,
Question mark?
the lunch and learn. We had a great lunch and learn. I remember it was last year, the year before. But where they were talking about the original zoning to to the Coney Island stretch, and that these sort of automotive, what is it, Kristen? C8. Yeah, that those were designated for the auto zone because it was gonna be built on Parkway to go to the beach, and they were envisioning what I think of as like the Roger Rabbit thing, right? They're just gonna make it a parkway as far as the eye can see. They're gonna eliminate Toontown, and you're gonna stop at all these gas stations. It's gonna be wonderful. But then that didn't happen, and so, but that zoning keeps being grandfathered and grandfathered. It's supposed to go away, but it has not. But anyway, that was a really interesting lunch and learn that really covered that and some of the history of that zoning. So circulate that one again, really good. And then I was thinking about something that Barton was saying. I'm curious, those of you guys who have gone through this or are familiar with the recent Jamaica projects, like, how do you think it will be different? Or, you know, is the sort of bureaucracy and the way these things function will kind of be the same? Or do you think the changes along with the new administration are going to really shift how this comes about? Like, do you foresee it being a very different process? Is that something we should anticipate? Or leverage points being a little different? I'm just curious what you guys think in the new.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else can speak to it, but I mean, this is, I'm definitely coming to it, you know, from a more cynical perspective, just, you know, in terms of what is the end game here, you know, in terms of where the plan is going. You know, ultimately, the plan will produce zoning changes, and that would be the final step after the neighborhood plan. Then they would proceed to go ahead and adopt new zoning for those, you know, for the corridors. I think the most telling for me was what it was again in the their own information that they have here, and this is great. Some of the history is, you know, definitely interesting. I love the old stuff. At the very end, and it's very well at the end, it's a section that's called limits to growth. You have to click on it as well. And so this is really, I think, at a, you know, it's sort of at a point in terms of where the administration is, because, you know, I could just sort of read this to you, and it, you know, and I think it'll be reflective of where they want it to go, because it almost has a ... at the end. Because this is just the last paragraph. It says in the 1990s, these efforts expanded southward in terms of contextual districts. They're talking about Park Slope and Windsor Terrace. The mapping of historic districts and balanced down zonings combined with new BSA oversight allowed modest home enlargements while limiting large-scale new construction. This culminated in the 2009 contextual rezoning of 180 blocks across Flatbush. That'll be coming up as part of this process as well. This rezoning sought to provide a balanced approach, further reducing new housing opportunities on side streets while allowing for limited new housing on main corridors. So here's the ... The voluntary inclusionary housing incentives created in the rezoning went largely unused, and affordable housing production in these areas has remained minimal. So it kind of ends there. And, you know, where does that lead? Where does this administration want to go? Clearly, they're looking for, you know, more density. They're looking for opportunities to build more housing, build more affordable housing. And I think in a lot of ways, you know, our community can get behind that. But I think that's, sort of the prism we're looking at in terms of where this project is going. At least that's how I see it. That's me being cynical. I don't know. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think it's really, I was reading the website on the train here, and I was like, and what? Like, when I got to the last sentence, and thank you for highlighting that. And it's sort of a two-part comment. I think the first is, I don't know how it was done. I feel bad, but I think somehow a lot about Fourth Avenue, like, that to me always strikes me when I think about Coney Island Avenue. I'm always like, oh, just like Fourth Avenue. And I have to go. I grew up in Fort Greene, and so I've seen that it's like a valley of super high apartment buildings.
Right. So
So I think when someone was talking, like, again, if I'm like, shops or places where people can live, like the places where people can live, great. But I think you made the comment about we want like a well-rounded community. So I would love to educate myself about like how that happened, and it would suck if Coney Island Avenue became this crazy valley of massive apartments. So that's my one comment. The other is I really resonate with like opportunity around I think it's great that we have this lead time before DCP starts. And as someone who works in like event planning, I'm always like, all right, what's a good excuse to get people to show up for a party? And I'm almost thinking, and I know there are staff, but like if for a few of our monthly board meetings for like an hour, we all showed up an hour early for like a community brainstorm. I'm inspired. I just got these emails, although they kind of made me angry. Plus, I thought it was cool. The Mayor's Office of Mass Communication, which I have so many questions about. They are doing this thing called NYC 101s, which I think is super cool, but I would also like to not be emailed about it with less than 24 hours in advance. But like, imagine if CB14 did these 1 hour sort of CB14 101s on in advance of this, where all these awesome resources that are on our website, or maybe that we know about, but other people don't know about, where we could just sort of highlight this for folks, they could talk about it and prepare themselves to respond to DCP's things so that they go into that with less of a, you know, gut instinct thing and maybe have some exposure. So I would love and volunteer to help with, you know, like 1 hour beforehand where people, and I like sort of preceding everything DCP is gonna do. And then maybe, you know, they come for the brainstorm, they stay for the community board meeting, and they're like, wow, community boards are amazing. I should support this forever. So that was my other comment.
Yeah, sure. Well, it kind of sucks that the summer's coming and that they're gonna come out with their official plan in September. It always seems to happen.
No, I don't think it'll be that.
But I think maybe a town hall is sort of along the lines of what you're describing. If CB14 started off with the town, because I know there are a lot of groups that are independently discussing this. And it'd be great if CB14 sort of took the lead and offered the first major forum for different people from the different groups to come and speak to them.
Noted.
I'm gonna suggest that there be some summer gatherings, meetings, brainstorming sessions that, you know, the committee of the whole is read in, on Monday, that, you know, encourage.
Gotta do that?
Some.
Yes, you did.
So, I mean, just, you know, just some preliminary work and, you know, pressure of us for those who are available and around and want to jump in on some of these discussions. Also, some of you said this, you know, FDC has also been holding meetings and will continue to do that, and other organizations will too. And they're having a very similar conversation, like, how do we make sure we're expanding this? There's 12 people here tonight. How do we make sure it's 20 the next time and 40 the next time? So I think that we'll be able to coalesce, and then, you know, Mary Kay Siri from Bobby Carroll's office also, I mean, your office, I think, spans the entirety of the project. So, you're our bridge, Mary. Yep.
What is it from the elected officials, you know, office's perspective in terms of how to manage this process, just to give us a little window?
Oh, my God, I'm not gonna speak for the assembly, but, you know, there is a tremendous enthusiasm at the mayor's office for pushing this through, and I think it makes sense to not be too high in the sky with what you ask for, because it's gonna happen in some shape or form on big terms. So I think you have to work with instead of against. That's all. I mean, I think Bobby can be very helpful. I don't know about, you know, the city council people, like where they're gonna sift out in this, but I think Bobby's got a very good relationship with the mayor's office, and, but he also sees the writing on the wall, so.
Just out of curiosity, would you be up for coming to some town halls?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Interesting.
Can I disagree about pie in the sky, though? I mean,
I think
it's fine to ask for pie in the sky as long as we're managing expectations and willing to sort of negotiate down to, just a slice of pie. Pie is pie.
Depends on what kind of pie. Apple.
I have just a few points to bring up about it. In general, I'll make them brief. One is schools. I know you mentioned it briefly, but we have the schools on, I have a vested interest, my kids attend schools on Coney Island Avenue in the impacted area. Their school is currently 130%, actually 2 years ago, it was 130% utilization rate. And that's only gotten worse. That's featured prominently in our district statement of needs. My kid will be in a class next year with 30 kids. The law is 20. the utilization rate, again, was 123.2%, and that was the 2024-2025 school year. That will only get worse. We need more schools, and there physically aren't any built. SCA informs us it's a 4 to 5 year lead time. And in order to responsibly add more kids in our community, we have to make sure that we are not having kids in a situation that they're in classrooms like that. And that's currently what's going on. That's what we're looking forward to next year. 2 is the auto body shops and C8s. I just want to clarify, I don't fault them for existing, but it's when they're not allowing pedestrian and cars to coexist. Utilizing the entire sidewalk. I have a whole reel of photos from yesterday of my friend walking single file with her daughter between parked cars physically on the sidewalk where they should never be, period. And actually at one point by Jalsa, the restaurant, exiting and walking on the street.
Is that the used car lot place?
Yeah, there's several. There's used car lot, there's the ones that black out windshields, if you need that done. So it's not that they exist, it's their inability to coexist with the existing community, pedestrians, cars, and people should be able to walk on the sidewalk, maybe even 2 abreast, if not the entire sidewalk. Next is community space. In 2 weeks, the neighborhood association I'm the treasurer for is paying $650 for our annual meeting because there's nowhere for us to meet. Our annual dues are $15 a family, payable by check, Venmo, that's 43 families whose annual dues are being wasted on a community meeting because we tried the library. The capacity, anyone know the Cortellia Library?
Yeah.
Meeting room capacity? How many people?
I think they like.
26. 26 people. They were willing to work with us, maybe even like, we have an evening meeting there. We're gonna have more than 26 people, God willing. Once again, who's come to the meeting. So we're wasting $650 of our modest dues just to meet at our annual meeting. As a community. We need community space. This is something FDC has championed. It's something that's in our statement of needs as a community board. And it's something that we can demand. I know the mayor's office is really intent on doing this, but we don't have anywhere to meet as a community, anywhere in this. This is our biggest meeting space and we're falling off can't even all sit at the same table. Next is just housing for families, not micro units, all of the just a lot of the new buildings we're seeing have square footage of units of 428 square feet for a unit, 512 square feet for a unit. That's a dormitory. That's not a building for families that you can grow in. Those might as well be sponsored by the city of Maplewood, New Jersey, because you live in them and then your kid hits 8 years old and wants a bike. And you have to move. You have to leave our community. I think we can demand minimum, I think it's called form unit factor, minimum unit size to allow families to be able to stay here once their kids are no longer babies. And then green space, second to last in New York City, not just Brooklyn for green space and CB14. I think that's top of our district needs statement. Let's really push on that and demand that and say, you want to add more height? Let's add more space for all of us somewhere, something. The city has properties that they own. Let's make that and prioritize that. No developer is going to build a green space. And then finally, I just want to invite the voices of current early adapters on Coney Island Avenue, some of the buildings that have come up. I won't name them by address, but the people I know who've lived in some of these early developments have had lawsuits against the developers. Every room is leaking. Balconies are off limits for people for a brand new constructed building because they're shut down by the DOB for being unusable. And I don't know to the extent that we can demand constructed homes that are actually meant to be lived in and not these really poorly constructed towers that we're seeing going up with very little oversight. But hearing from these early adapters and some of the challenges they have faced could really inform our discussion as a community, even beyond this room, about what we should demand so that we're not having some of the same mistakes and issues that people are facing. So that's my tip, Kim.
Thank you for that. Yeah, those are important ideas, and I think that's just really, we're just scratching the surface tonight, so this is great. I think at this point, maybe just in terms of the time, in terms of wrap up, just thinking ahead, and I'm looking at you, Sean, to help guide us, because I know we talked a little bit about this. What is the most feasible for us, putting aside the summer sessions that we might be able to put together, in terms of our committee, meeting, in the fall, in terms of what, the folks who maybe we can bring in, or, we could obviously set aside some time for further discussion, but in terms of the folks who might be helpful for some of that 101 stuff, just to sort of to kick things off. I know we've sort of talked about maybe experiences from Jamaica or something like that might be a start for us, but I don't know. I don't know if you have any other, things that you have sort of mind at this point.
No, that was kind of it, like trying to get people who've had the experience in other parts of the city to come in and share their experience. Maybe doing an overview of brownfield cleanup, and then what I'm gonna try to do is get every committee as they stand now, the committee co-chairs, the excerpts from the, kind of point you to the right sections of the district needs statement. And then maybe try to pull out some service delivery, like the capacity and utilization reports for the education committee. And just try to get started on a committee by committee kind of resource page that then committee chairs, and as you have meetings over the beginning of the year, kind of add to. So there'll be like, the resources, the material we have now, additional outside resources, and then like that will start to develop into the wish lists that will guide the agendas as we move forward. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so, and I think we'll try to do, we'll do better to try to, make sure that there's better communication amongst all of us, to make sure everyone's on the same page and everything that's happening. Yes.
I think to combine your question with what you offer, Sean, I love that idea. I'm wondering, I know we're going into summer break, summer session, sorry, and it's not a break. We're going into summer session, and I know when we come back, at least for me, it feels like things should start rolling. So I'm wondering, I know we're gonna do a committee of the whole. Is this something that committee of the whole can work on over the summer so that
Yeah,
yeah,
yes.
okay, and then like co-chairs can like start planning out needs to show up at meetings as we get ready for like, the upcoming year.
Yeah, like when Regina was just speaking, my brain was sort of dividing everything off. Like you said one thing, I said that's committee, and then you said trees, and I went, that's community environment. And so as you come up with ideas, I think filtering them to the right committee so that they get considered in, and then filtering back into housing and land use. So it's sort of like an out and then back in idea in terms of planning this. And then, figuring out what other groups in the neighborhoods like FDC and I keep saying FDC, but others will pop up too that we can, work with and invite in, and then, go to their meetings too, because we don't have to all stay. If you talk about in your neighborhood associations, your tenant associations, your block parties this summer.
Yes.
When your kids are together on the playground for their small. See what the kids want. By the time it's done, they'll be moving.
It's not long.
Right, so I think this has been a good initial discussion to sort of frame it. That was sort of the goal, to sort of think about how we're going to move forward. There'll be more about it, obviously, in the coming weeks and coming months. And you obviously give the chair lots of ideas too as well, to sort of think about it more broadly. But I think at this point, unless there are any other questions, maybe we'll conclude here for tonight. And then we'll move forward from here.
I just want to add that I'm pretty excited to be doing this with you all. I remember after I became chair, I had a conversation with Sean, and we were talking about the neighborhood plan, 197A plan, just like some of my goals, what was feasible, and then the city put a neighborhood plan on our plate, right? So I'm actually very excited to be doing this with you all. We have very thoughtful board members, very experienced board members. We have urban planners and lawyers and people that just from that do things in the neighborhood. So I think we have a very good group. It's just important that we continue to do stuff. Well, when I'm not taking a vacation somewhere, we will be doing stuff this summer. So I just want to share there will be engagement this summer. And I also just want to shout out Annie, who was our community planning fellow, just graduated from NYU Wagner.
We're sorry we didn't give you at least a moment, because, I mean, you worked for us, the whole year and, I mean, is there anything else, sort of exit survey on, your experience with, working on your project and, with the board and, the district as well?
So I compiled quite a lot of visualizations looking at like housing and demographics, which I'm happy to share. But something like you had brought up about needing more family kind of units. And we're having a decline of 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms. So those are the things that like immediately I'm thinking about when like asking for like what we want from the housing that's coming in. But yeah, that's like my first thought.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, well, thank you all tonight, and again, we'll be talking.
Thanks, everyone.
That's fine.
Oh, awesome.
What is it? I missed a lot of the first night. But.
What price?
Smash it to one, but I'm just like practical. So.
I was
Yes.
I was tomorrow, I definitely don't want
It's like, just do it.
I wouldn't.